Hello everyone, welcome back to Nunar, and today we're going to be talking about how Xi Jinping has transformed the Chinese nation from that of a little less prosperity to a little more prosperity. Uh, he joined in 2012, a decade ago, with a dream of creating a great sense of rejuvenation, power, and prosperity. 10 years later, yeah, he's transformed China, both on the world stage, economically, and militarily, technologically. They've all improved. In all these aspects, the nation has improved. Now, first off, the very first thing that he did was oversee a wide-scale anti-corruption campaign. But this wasn't to portray himself. This wasn't because he was trying to be nice. It was so that he could cement his grip on power. But anyways, he investigated 4.6 million officials in the 18th Party Congress, and 553 of them were senior officials. So already from the beginning, he was doing lots of stuff. He also built like uh, a sense of unity in the party, and he was at the core of it, and he strengthened it all. Now, he wanted to reshape the world order, but that would be, and he did it in many ways actually. So first off, he built up the infrastructure in Southeast Asia to South America to Latin America, and he poured an average of $85 billion annually in belts and road initiatives. Now, he also asserted his claims in the South China Sea, and he was starting to feud with India for a bit about a border with Nepal. And he strengthened ties with Russia. He also did something very good. He pledged to go carbon neutral by 2060. He made this promise in like 2012 or something like that, and we don't have any official records, so we cannot know how it is doing so far. Now, American perceptions, though, of China had declined drastically. Like before Xi Jinping came to power, the lowest it had ever gotten was like 35% favored him, and 60 and 55 didn't. Nowadays, though, it's at 16% do not favor him, 82%, no, 16% favor him, 82% do not, and 2% are undefined. Now, this is because of a horrible human rights record. Now, he also expanded the military, and he opens China's first overseas military base in Djibouti. Djibouti shouldn't be called Djibouti. It should be called military bases. The country. Because seriously, every country has one. China has one. The US had one. The UK had one. They all had one. Now, China had built up the world's largest navy, definitely. At the start of the millennium, it was kind of low. It barely had 100 battle force ships, and then it started growing and growing. And Xi Jinping, when he came into power, this process started rapidly increasing. And in 2015, just before 2015, they were tied with the US for the strongest. And then they just kept going and going, and the US actually had a slight decrease at this point. So they became the world's largest navy. And he's also been pressuring Taiwan to reunify. And by reunify, we all know that it's just that the Chinese government taking over. He's been pressuring that. Um, so something that he did that was very good was he abolished a lot of absolute poverty, and he increased income, like, no, not income, he increased internet access. However, the economy has really stagnated. GDP growth at one time in 2020 it was at 2%. And before that, it was reaching highs like 14% annually. Now, uh, 3 trillion was lost at the $3 trillion was lost at the very height of this cracking down on private enterprise. And about 32,000 kilo. But the good is 98.99 million people were pushed out of absolute poverty. Now, as a proportion to the Chinese population, that is a small number, but for that is the extra 1% of the world's population that isn't in poverty. That is good. And internet usage just about doubled from 564 million in 2012 to 1.05 billion in 2022. And the Chinese added about 20,000 miles of railroads. Yeah, although uh, his human rights track has not been as good as his maybe foreign policy, economic, as maybe has not been as its foreign and domestic policy. His human rights record isn't as good. Now, uh, one more than 1 million, and I know I'm pronouncing this wrong. I'll just try my best. Uyghur, Uyghur. Tell me how to pronounce it in the comments. People and other minorities have been interned in the detention facilities, and they were tortured and abused. Very good. And also, there's mass detentions in the fact. Now, uh, there has been a crisis of like births, because since the introduction of the one child policy, uh, the birth rate per thousand people had really it had gone down so bad, and it actually was on the rise for a bit. And then in 2015, the one child policy was relaxed, but this didn't actually lead to more people. This actually didn't lead to stabilizing the birth rate. It actually led to a drop. It had a slight increase and then it just crashed. And even when the three-child policy was introduced, the pronatal policy, it crashed. So, one of the slogans that was used by many Chinese people at the time was that we are the last generation. Uh, Young people who really aren't affected as much by this, that's what they're saying. That's what they were saying. Yeah. And they've been cracking down on Hong Kong. Hong Kong has like, been, since 2019, Hong Kong has been being threatened and has been trying to be invaded, if that makes sense. That math ain't nothing, but yeah. And let's be honest, this is a greater challenge than when uh, the I believe signed a British Treaty of 1997 was signed, which Hong Kong actually became a part of Britain. Now, funny thing is, I think it's until like 2040, and then it goes back to the UK, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look up the treaty terms, and then I'll tell you next time. 196 people were arrested. As of June of this year, 124 more individuals and 124 of those individuals and 5 companies have been prosecuted in Hong Kong. And 10,000 people have been arrested for the involvement in these protests in 2019. 10,000 more people. And among those, 2,800 have been prosecuted. Now, On the 25th anniversary of the handover of Hong Kong, July 1st, 2022, uh, this might have added more fuel to the fire. It depends on how you interpret it. But Xi Jinping, he said, we must ensure that Hong Kong is administered by patriots. There's no country or region in the world where its people will allow an unpatriotic or even treasonous force or figure to take power. That added more fuel, can to the fuels, flames to the fire. But yeah, so uh, there has been there's been more technological uh, improvements, right? They got 5G and the so this 2019. Let's go back. Let's go back to 2019. 54. There was 770 million surveillance cameras, and half of those, 54%, were China. So they like they were protecting the streets or searching up people or trying to criminalize people for expressing their views. Now, it, when COVID broke out, Beijing adopted a zero COVID policy, which was a bit effective, more effective than, say, what the US did, but in the end, it wasn't as effective as it could have been. So that's basically it. That's been the past 10 years for China, basically. Uh, so, would I say China has improved? Yes and no. China beforehand didn't have as much. Okay, like before the Communist Party, China had actually a decent human rights record. So, in that regard, it was bad. But they got to 5G, 5Gs, 5Gs of Wi Fi first, and also the economy. While it wasn't growing as fast as before, it was still growing. The populace were not starving. 98 million people, 98 million people were lifted out of poverty. So I guess it's up to you really to decide whether it's good or bad. So until next time.